Informed, not inflamed.
Are El Paso and Dayton the new Vietnam? Hi everyone, John Daly here with some Informed, Not Inflamed. I must admit, the mass shootings this past weekend are frightening. Admittedly, I'm a little shook up about it. Now granted, maybe I'm watching a little bit too much news coverage. I try to keep you apprised on my news channels on Facebook and Twitter, and you can follow them at John Daly News or Informed, Not Inflamed. But it's hard to ignore or stash away to a comfortable spot in your mind that so many people were killed so quickly for no reason. It made me think back to the late 1960s when I was a teenager, and frankly, that time was scary too. We were living with a number of political assassinations. There were militant groups on the rise. The nation seemed like it was coming apart. What seemed to galvanize the majority of Americans was the Vietnam War, or the groundswell to end the war. I think there are a lot of similarities to today. Go back and watch Ken Burns' 18 hours of his documentary on the Vietnam War. There is one big revelation that seems to ring true today. That revelation was that the majority of Americans did not take action against the Vietnam War until they realized their sons and daughters were being killed for no reason. Or worse, they realized their government was lying to them about the war. It started a groundswell of opposition to LBJ. It was so bad he didn't even run for re-election. Read Doris Kearns Goodwin's latest book called Leadership. She actually worked with LBJ on his memoirs. And Johnson knew that all that he had done as a member of Congress and as president would be wiped out because of what he ignored when it came to Vietnam. He would leave office and die a few years later, politically broken. Another revelation from the Burns documentary was from U.S. military advisors who understood early that the Vietnam War was a lost cause for the United States. The flashpoint, so to speak, was when Buddhist monks were setting themselves on fire in protest to the U.S. involvement. The advisors said, if these people are willing to kill themselves to protest U.S. involvement in Vietnam, then we have no chance here. Read the book Our Man, Richard Holbrooke and the End of the American Century. George Packer writes it. He documents Holbrooke's career in diplomacy and his involvement in the Johnson White House during Vietnam. He couldn't convince Johnson or Defense Secretary McNamara of what was coming. In short, when people are dying or they are willing to die for a cause, they usually win. When people see their loved ones dying, that's when they take action. Is this past weekend with the events in El Paso and Dayton the next Vietnam? I don't know. I would have thought Sandy Hook would have done it. But I'm beginning to think that even Republicans are getting tired of this. Sure, many are numb to this. Others will fight to protect Trump from Democratic attacks, labeling him as the cause. Now, does Trump deserve ridicule? Absolutely. Can he be charged or sued for this? No. But he will be charged politically, while his base will stay with him. But I also think a majority of people are beginning to understand that this is an American problem. David Frum, in his column in The Atlantic magazine, wrote that many other countries have video games, racist, and mentally ill people who are dangerous. The difference is they don't have a preponderance of guns that can shoot hundreds of bullets a minute. I think this might be a time for reasonable gun legislation. Let me be clear about my bias here. I am not against the Second Amendment. I have spoken about this before. I told the story of a woman who hired me to MC an event. I offered to walk her to her car at the end of the event, and she said no. She said she would be fine, and then she showed me her purse that had a small handgun inside. I was really impressed. She took control. Also, she was a liberal. Now, despite my years growing up in the liberal Northeast, my years in the libertarian Wild West state of Nevada made me realize that people should have their own protection. Still, why would anyone need a military-style weapon like the kind we saw used this past weekend? Just as we need smarter immigration laws, we need smarter gun laws. We also need to get rid of corporate influence. This past weekend was indirectly caused by campaign money that sows chaos and keeps monopolies in business while keeping Americans feeling threatened. We also need to get in front of social media and how the technology is causing more problems and not solutions. That includes examining the media as well. Are we threatened enough from this past weekend? I don't know. What do you think? This will be posted on my news sites. Check them out and follow me. They're on Twitter and Facebook. The sites are Informed, Not Inflamed or John Daly News. Read them for 15 minutes a day. You will be more informed than watching 4 hours of cable news. Catch you next time.
For more on John Daly, go to informednotinflamed.com.